Hey everyone, it is Berenstain Bears collector Brad back again for a really special video about collecting children's books, identifying different editions, and specifically more about what we call the first time books of the Berenstain Bears series published by Random House, even though these days they're not actually called first time books anymore. But I'll get to all of that. Um, this is going to get really in the weeds. This is very niche. But the book that we're talking about is The Berenstain Bears and the Sitter. This is a book that was one of the first four books published in the First Time Books series um, by Random House in 1981. And they aren't called first time books because these are books that you read when you are a first time reader. For example, they're fairly lengthy, and many of the pages contain like an entire paragraph of text. So these are books that are meant to be read to kids about first time experiences, like going to the doctor or the dentist, going to camp, or in this case, experiencing a babysitter for the first time. Anyway, one thing that is confusing about these books is because they have been so popular over the decades and generations, there are lots and lots of different editions and versions of these books. And if you are a serious collector, you want to collect all the different editions. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to work a little bit backwards in time because we're going to check a couple of these off that are really easy to identify and different. And the most recent edition is what is now branded as the Berenstain Bears Classics books. Okay, they bear the new logo in the upper right hand corner. They have a glossy cover. You'll see that this is pretty reflective in the light, high gloss. And then the back looks like this, showing just a few highlights from what used to be called the First Time Books series. P.S. These do all have stickers in them. This series, I don't remember the year exactly, it came out in the late 2010s, the late 2010s. I want to say about 2018 or 2019 or so is maybe when they rebranded this series. I should have looked that up before I recorded this video, but there you go. The edition right before that is what we call the First Time Books series with stickers. These started coming out in the early 2010s, around 2012 or so, I do believe. And they're pretty much identical to what came before them. They have a glossy, high gloss cover. And this is the back. This is pretty familiar and famous to many of you, where it shows pictures of a bunch of the First Time books. Okay. Prior to that, there was what I call the new version, or the new edition, has the pictures of the books on the back, says collect them all, but does not have any stickers. There's no logo saying stickers inside, and there are no stickers inside. Prior to this, we have what I call the original edition of Sitter. And this is the classic vintage version where you see the landscape on the back, the large logo of the First Time Book series, and then either a list of books or in the original editions, just a description of the first 4 or 6 books that were released. This is pretty cool, okay? So what I'm going to do here is, first of all, I'm going to push aside the special editions because we're going to get to those in just a second. At first glance, they're basically all the same, okay? Now, what you want to be looking for to identify the different printings of this version is how early was this produced. Now, first of all, you've got this one. This is a later printing because it lists a whole bunch of titles in the series, okay? It's got the barcode. We know it's a commercial edition. I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. These 3 are all, in fact, if I look more closely at these two appear to be the same, don't they? Yep. They have the exact same barcode. They have the same description. They have the same price. The only thing that could be different about these is if we go to the copyright page, this one is a 3rd printing. The lowest number is 3. This one is a 6th printing. The lowest number is 6. So these are really the same book. They just came off the press at a different time. So I can actually take one of those away. But what I want to point out is how these two, at first glance, are the same, but this one has a barcode, this one does not. That's because the very first edition, first printing, did not bear an UPC or a barcode. It has the ISBN number down here in the corner. But this is about the time, 1981, when publishers were first starting to put barcodes on books. And when this first printing came out, they didn't have barcodes on them. Then by the time they got to the third printing, they had added the barcode. Now, there's one edition that I don't have, so I pulled out Moving Day from my collection. This is another book, came out the exact same time, the exact same year. It was one of the first 4 books in the First Time Book series. And what I want to point out is that this is a book club edition. How do I know that this is a book club edition? Well, this is one of the great questions about how to identify different editions of books. The first and most obvious tell is that this has no barcode. It just has the ISBN in a blank spot where there should be a barcode. Also, look how flexible this book is. This is made of much thinner material. The cover can be easily bent, no problem. Whereas these commercial editions are much heavier. They're physically heavier. If I bend the cover, I feel like I'm gonna hurt this. Well, it's much stronger, much thicker. Also, you can look at the spines. This is a full 1/8 of an inch, and it's squared off. The book club editions, because the paper is thinner and lighter, basically comes to a point. They're both stapled, but it's much thinner, more like a 1/16 of an inch. Additionally, I can literally feel the difference of the paper, and you can actually hear it if you listen carefully. The paper is rougher and cheaper on the book club edition. On the commercial edition, it's smoother. I don't know if you can pick this up on the video, but it's not quite as loud. It's not quite as rough. Another thing, I think I pointed this out before, but the original editions that have this back cover have only a semi-gloss cover. Some people would even call it matte. I call it more semi-gloss. Okay, if I see how it can catch the light and reflect a little bit, but not nearly as much as one of these. Okay, so if it's got this back cover, you can know it has this back cover without even flipping it over if you just notice how shiny the cover is. Okay, so again, that is why it's really important to investigate these books closely and to look at them very carefully, because you can have 7 or 8 different books that appear to be the same, but are actually very, very different. Then you've got the books that were published with accessories, like this whole series of first-time books. Most of them were also published with an audio cassette, and they came in this package here with this sleeve, and it lists all of the different books in the series on the back. And then there's a bunch of them that were issued with a puppet. I flip it over. It's in this nice little plastic sleeve. I flip it over. She fell out. Mrs. Grizzle fell out. Anyway, normally Mrs. Grizzle would be tucked in back here. Okay. This edition shows up online a lot. This was published primarily in Canadian markets by Grolier. It's a hardcover, and the back is completely blank. The UK edition that was available in England and Australia actually had a name change, the Berenstain Bears and the Babysitter. But it has a back like the original. And you can see there were several others released in the UK in this series. And then this is a fun one. This is also a hardcover. This would have been a book club edition through Weekly Reader. So this is a book that students could have ordered through like a book order or a book fair at school. And what's special about this, came with an audio CD. That's pretty cool. Okay, so there you go. These are the different editions of the Berenstain Bears and the Sitter that I have. We've talked about the difference between commercial editions, book club editions, special editions, how to identify them. Hope that helps, and Happy hunting.